My name is Billy Park, and I run a gallery in Northampton called One Love. But this isn't about that. This is about something very different. I will start off with saying in 2016, I was wrongly smeared in the media for something that never happened. And since one side of that story was told and not mine, I have for many years been accused of something that never happened and was actually proven in a court of law with video evidence not to be true. And I will almost guarantee that somebody will mention that in this post that I have written here falsely. So keep that in mind when you hear what I'm about to say. That you kind of really need to get two sides of a story before you make your judgment. And what I mean is I make a habit, and I know many people don't for various reasons, but make a habit of trying to sit in the middle of things, not being one side. Because when you're on one side, you can only hear the shouts of others and confirmation bias and echo chamber of what you believe in over and over. So you think you have an absolute truth and know exactly you have everything, all the knowledge, but you can't hear what's on the other side, and you certainly can't see what's going on the side. But you think you understand, but you don't. The way you understand things is sitting in the middle, because in the middle you can see both sides from afar and see what's really going on, and that's what I do a lot. But a damage of sitting in the middle is you're vulnerable from both sides for shots, for people taking, because you're not protected by your tribe or your group of people. You're in the middle. And that's where I sit a lot. And that's where I'd like to start on this letter by Benjamin Levy. Um, I saw this letter on social media. I didn't actually come looking for the letter. I go on social media next door to broadcast events and things I'm doing at my gallery, and I went on that intention. But I saw this letter from Benjamin Levy, and I noticed it was very popular, and I noticed the catchy headline, and I started reading it, and I read it was very interesting, and I read the whole thing, and then I noticed that there was a swarm of people um, attacking something, and I read the letter, and I noticed it was Salvation Army, and I was like, Salvation Army, an organization that's give billions of dollars to the needy for a century, and these people are attacking Salvation Army, much like attacking Mother Teresa for something. It seemed a little wacky to me. So then I started reading the article very carefully, and I noticed in the article that Benjamin Levy really made himself look like an amazing guy, a hero. And this woman seemed very distraught, and I felt very sorry for her. And I read it, and it really almost like Benjamin Levy made no mistakes whatsoever. I mean, he was Superman without the S on his chest. Right? Greek myths about the guy, I think. Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer came to mind. Very amazing story. And at the same time, cleverly, he backhandedly took shots at Salvation Army. So I decided to call Salvation Army and talk to them about this situation. Because, like I said, I like to sit in the middle. Originally, I thought the reason the bathroom was closed at Salvation Army was due to COVID, because there have been research that said COVID is spread through fecal matter, and it's not a high rate, but it does happen. So it makes sense to me that the bathroom would be closed, that we're living in a pandemic, even though a lot of people have been vaccinated and such. But I called Salvation Army, and I found out actually that wasn't the case. The bathroom has always been closed. And I told them about the post on Nextdoor, and they said they were aware of it, and they just kind of been watching it. And I said, can you tell me what happened that day? And he said, I said, it seemed very suspicious to me that what's going on this post. It seems very one-sided and almost written just too good to be true. I mean, nobody looks like that much of an angel. Nobody's that much of an angel, and making somebody look so bad. And everything just seemed, it just didn't seem like a Disney movie or something. And he said, well, actually, it's not true. Um, and we have video evidence of that. I said, can you send me the video evidence? They said, no, we can't send the video evidence. The manager is not allowed to do that. So I started talking about alternate ideas and looking at his story and saying it didn't add up. And people didn't like that. But and then the ideas kept coming out of how horrible Salvation Army was this, how dehumanizing, how despicable. I know all the words, and that they were going to boycott Salvation Army and picket and beat the court case, and how could they do this, and they are so bad, and they need to do this and this. So I decided to go down to Salvation Army myself. I decided to be a little bit investigative reporting, because when this has been done to yourself and you've been blasted on something unfairly, it kind of bugs you when you get the sense of it when it's done to other people. So I went down to Salvation Army and I walked in the door, and the people in the Salvation, I told them was, and they knew how I was. They, wow, thank you so much for speaking up to them. I said, you know what? I just want to get an understanding from your side of the story, because I told them I was sitting in the middle and that stuff. So come in the back. So I came in the back, and they explained the story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read. Oh, and I actually walked around the store, talked to people, went and checked where the actual locations of things were, the conditions of traffic, all the things that Ben commented on. So I'm going to go through his letter here line by line and give you an alternative idea of what's going on, and not just Benjamin's one-sided idea. An elderly woman was about to soil herself in the aisle of the Hadley Salvation Army thrift store. She was pleading desperately with an employee to let her use the restroom. Okay. Their side of the story said the woman had been there for a while. She had asked a couple of times to use the restroom, and they had said, no, we don't let people use public restrooms. This is not a public restroom, it is our restroom. Now let's comment on that for a second. Why, I don't think I agree with their policy of not opening their restroom for public use. There are plenty of businesses all over Northampton, all over the world, that do that for various reasons. Some, if you don't eat in their restaurant, they won't even allow to use your restroom, or other reasons for it. So, and on the door it says in plain letters and a big sign, no public restroom use. Okay, let's continue on. And nobody has told me that she was pleading desperately, that she really wanted to use that restroom. She really wanted to use that. Was definitely true, but this seemed to be a little hyperbole to me from what I've gotten to them. So let's continue on. A second employee, apparently a manager, arrived and told the woman that she could not use the restroom, and there was nothing the manager could do to help, and that woman would have to find a way to get into a car and fight traffic across Route 9 to go to an available restroom at Whole Foods. Okay, notice the words used, fight traffic. Well, I went out to Route 9, and this was roughly around 5 o'clock. And it didn't seem to be too trafficy. I actually took video of it, and I looked out there, and he very well may have said Whole Foods, but right across the street is a car dealership, and probably 50 yards down the street is the Shelburne Falls Coffee Shop, and the Whole Foods is probably the furthest place down the road, and the other way there's another business, I think a putt-putt or something, but things were very close. And let's keep going with this. The woman could barely move, and there was no way she would make it that far. That to me is a complete exaggeration from everybody I've talked to there. That is not true. She was in severe GI distress and needed a restroom immediately. So let's address that idea. So the woman had been there already. She had asked the place, Salvation Army, twice if she could use the restroom. They had said no, it is our policy not to let people use the public restroom. So she had been there for a while. So why I feel sympathy for this woman, she had the time to go to another restroom and get this done. She didn't just come up with an urgent need and need to go. And yes, it seemed like she did have some sort of medical condition, IBS or something. We don't know what it is, but Ben has made us delete it. It's pretty hard, pretty bad thing. We don't know that, but Ben kind of paints that picture that it is. So, and also, she was not, she also did not have a card. And you carry a card if you really have this medical condition so people can open the restroom for you. And they had told me they have opened the restroom before for people that have a card that actually verify that they have this ailment and they open the door. So she may have had something, she didn't have a card. Those are all a lot of unknowns that Ben tries to lead you down one way. The woman here appeared bothly entirely humiliated and utterly helpless. He's a good writer, man. Appeared entirely humiliated and utterly helpless. Okay, so he's painted this pretty good. I've been shopping at the Salvation Army for years and knew exactly where there was one of the number of restrooms which are at one time open to the public. Okay, so let's address that, what Ben said. I went there and I asked them, and they said none of them knew this guy. He may have been shopping there, but they had never seen him before. So that put some red flags in my head. He could have been there, but if he'd been there for years, I would think they had seen him amongst all the other needy people, older people, and people just don't have much money that shop there because the great things that they do, the Salvation Army, they actually help me out in tough times. Okay, let's continue on. He also said that the restroom it was open at one time for the public. Everybody there has told me that restroom has not been open for public use for a very long time. So I don't believe that, Ben. I really don't, because everybody else said quite the opposite. And I told you there was a weathered sign on the front door that said it wasn't a public restroom. And I don't know why that was, but it has. So that seems a falsity to me. Okay, now here's where it gets really good. Like, I don't know, like very heroic for Ben. I calmly approached the woman, extending my bent arm to her, told her that I knew where there was a restroom, and offered to escort her there. She held onto my arm and allowed herself to be led into the store's back hallway. Okay, let's address that issue. He was very volatile from my understanding from them. He was insisting, like he said, he had asked somebody. They said, no, it's not the policy. He asked a second person. And at some point, another woman came in the door who felt like she thought it was the right that Salvation need to serve all her needs too and open the door. And she started to scream and I think crouch down and say, it's not fair, all this stuff, screaming, make a big scene. But he didn't mention her at all. So I'm not sure why he didn't mention her, but I'm not sure why the Salvation Army has to take care of everybody's needs. I can tell you I suffer from a little bit of IBS situation, and I've been in that situation. And I don't think it's the Salvation Army requirement to take care of my bathroom needs, and I certainly wouldn't attack them like that and do what he did. But let's move on. Maybe some people would, and maybe they feel like it's their obligation to serve the public and that they are prejudiced and discriminating. I don't. And like I said, the woman certainly had time to go somewhere else. It's kind of a victim mentality, which I really don't buy into. So anyway, but if she had an emergent need and had a card and hadn't been shopping for a while, I think they probably would have let her use the restroom. I don't know that. So let's continue. So, he's got her in his arm, escorting her so heroically back to the restroom. As we walked, foreign employees followed us, yelling at me to stop and threatening to call the police. That is true. They did threaten to call the police because they told you they didn't want to do it. You were not allowed to do it. The manager told you not to do it. So you were taking things in your own hands as if you owned the store. So I would not be happy about that either. When we made it to the restroom, the door was locked. I calmly asked the manager to open it, but she refused. I don't know if you calmly asked that. From my impressions, you were not calm, so I doubt you were calm when you got there. And I will continue on, which may give you some idea of that. I said one way or another, this woman is going to use this bathroom. Excuse me. The manager refused again. I shouldered the door once with a little force to see if it would easily pop open, but it did not. So this is where everybody in the store says quite different. They said that Ben threw his body in the door repeatedly up to 10 times and actually cracked the door, smashing it, and he was very frustrated. Let's continue on. I said one way or another, this woman is going to use this bathroom. The manager refused again. Yes, she did refuse when you're smashing a door like you own the place and like a vigilante. Yeah, I'm not sure I would do that either after you did that to the door. Just me. Maybe it's just me. In the background, they're a little bit shocked at your behavior, I'm sure, as many people would be. I repeated, this woman is going to use the bathroom, so if someone does not open the door, I'm going to have to open it somehow myself. I shouldered the door again with slightly more force, but it did not happen. Like I said, he did it many, many times, and he threw his body into it over and over. That being the cracks in the door. And if you go to the Salvation Army right now, you'll see a crime scene tape and leading to a hallway. I couldn't see it because it was dark, but they say he's pretty much ruined the door. The manager dialed the police. The woman was in actual pain and continued to cry. The people at Salvation Army, none of them said she was crying ever at any point. Okay, so let's continue on. Imagine her humiliation if there were any doubts about the significance of her suffering or the imminence of her need. He is a really good writer. Maybe a soap opera, a General Hospital, or As the World Turns is looking for a new writer to write one of their episodes. Might be calling you right about now, Ben. Let's see. Her endurance of this level of embarrassment should have made this clear to anyone present. So notice how he does these backhanded shots at Salvation Army over and over. Very cleverly how he does this. You know, the company that serves the needy and does all these great things. I'm wondering what great things Ben does for the community. I'm not sure. He hadn't told us, and I don't know his job, so I'm not going to assume what he does and does not do, but I know that Salvation Army does a heck of a lot. Luckily for her, I'm relatively handy and carry a small multi-tool. Maybe a Leatherman or something like that bulging in his pocket, I'm guessing. He seems like a regular MacGyver to me. Maybe he was a stand-in on the show or a stunt double or something. I'm not sure. I looked more closely at the door handle and saw the lock mechanism had been modified to fake a very rudimentary key. Yep, probably did take just a normal key, you're right. Because normally they don't have people trying to break down their door and they don't think they had to put a padlock on it. As if a criminal was trying to break into it. A few moments with the screwdriver from my pocket multi-tool and the door was easily unlocked and no damage to the door or handle. So let's just go to that. The Salvation Army has told me that the door is pretty much ruined and they have to replace the door. I don't know if that's true. That may be an exaggeration, but after smashing a door and over, I can see how that might be the case. The woman looked at me with extraordinary gratitude. Notice always the blowing up of Ben and how amazing he is and how horrific and horrible the Salvation Army is. Notice how he does that throughout the letter. As I opened the door for her, I assured her that I would not leave until she was safely out of the building, so I closed the door behind her and stood guard outside the restroom. Yes, he's like guarding Asgard on the bridge to Valhalla. I know how he's doing this. He's so amazing. Well, basically, the cops have been called. They're on the way. I don't know. Maybe this is true. Maybe he did all this. It's hard to say. I didn't get to that conversation with all the people I talked. By this time, the manager was talking on the phone with the police. Yes, they were calling the police, Ben, because you were basically vandalizing their property, destructing property, and acting like you owned the place like a vigilante. I'm pretty sure the cops were on the way. As I waited for the woman, another employee expressed a belief that I would risk criminal charges just to help a woman I did not know. Notice he said, a woman I did not know. He always inflates himself. And yes, Ben, I would think you would not try to smash down a door and not and disobey company policy and all the things you did. All right. Minutes later, the woman opened the door, threaded her arm through mine, and together we walked through the aisles and out of the store. And I'm sure trumpets were blowing, doves were flying, the angels were singing, people were throwing flower petals, and a whole proclamation of your greatness was being done in your eyes, Ben. Well, again, everybody I talked to in the store said as soon as she was out of there, he hightailed out there as fast as he can, like most fugitives would do after they smashed the door and broken in somewhere. So I highly doubt that happened, Ben, but you can say that happened. Nobody in the store said that was true. So, and then you continued on in the parking lot. The woman thanked me tearfully. I know, tears were streaming down her eyes. Again, the Salvation Army said she thanked him and continued to shop. Thanked him and continued to shop. But remember, Ben says, the woman tearfully thanked me. We squeezed hands and walked towards our cars. The manager followed her, continuing her conversation with police, describing me in the car as I was getting in to leave. That's not what the Salvation Army, again, they said you left. Okay, let's move on. And the woman was still in the store, shopping. Minutes after leaving the store parking lot, two police cars with lights flashing appeared behind me and pulled me over. I explained what had happened. The officers were polite and understanding. They said if the store's managers chose to do so, I may receive formal charges. Well, here's the reality, folks. The Salvation Army made no charges whatsoever. The funny thing is, the police department are making the charges and have a formal investigation, and they have video evidence and a lot of other stuff to take Ben to task on this and report formal charges and be prosecuted. So that seems to not be a very different story from the Salvation Army, too. Weeks later, I received a summons to appear in court for destruction of property, claiming damage to the door totaling $1,200. Yep, that came directly from the police department. I would guess from looking at the assessment of the damage you made to the door, hurling your body into it like trying to siege a castle or something, or whatever you do in your heroic feats. Under Massachusetts law, retail stores must allow customers to use restrooms if they suffer from eligible medical conditions. The woman's situation seems precisely of the kind lawmakers must have in mind when creating this law. So it strikes me that denying her use of a restroom was not only morally reprehensible, but also illegal. Morally reprehensible for not opening their door to the public. Again, the complete demonizing of the Salvation Army by Ben, and always the inflating of Ben, where he has big biceps and stretching his pose. By the way, he actually works out a lot. People have told me he goes to the gym a lot and pumps up. Okay, I don't know if that's true either, but that's what I've heard. So let's address that. Yes, Massachusetts law does say that. It also says that if you don't have serve food or drink, you don't have to have a restroom. It also says you have to have a card to actually prove that. And the woman never presented a card, so they had no obligation to open the door. And like I said before, she had asked several times, and they're not going to make special exception because for some woman. And no, that is not prejudice. That is not discriminating when you apply that to everybody. And it is of their mindset, and they're allowed to have a bathroom policy. I have people come in my gallery all the time, and I let pretty much everybody use the gallery. During COVID, I didn't let anybody use the gallery. Now that vaccine, I let people use the gallery bathroom, and but I'm not going to judge somebody if a Salvation Army on why they did it and what they did, and I'm surely not going to call them irreprehensible, morally reprehensible for doing that the way Ben does. Okay, I have deep. Okay, this is where he kind of gives some love to the employees, and notice it's near the end of the letter. I have deep respect for the challenges faced by the minimum wage workers whose jobs depend on policies set by those with greater power and often less frontline contact. Again, he goes back to demonizing corporations. Notice that greater power, that's what he always try to find some way to demonize something when he's actually talking good about the other. He's really good at that. I seriously think he needs to get a job writing somewhere to science fiction publication or something because he's very good at it. Okay, let's continue. Throughout the pandemic, workers have had to fight with hostile customers simply to get them to wear masks and respect social distance guidelines. I agree with that. That's true. Clearly, the situation was not the same, and these employees could have easily done more to help this woman in need. There's a shot at the employees. He talked about them good for a minute, but then he takes a shot back at them. But I do empathize with these employees' need for safety and privacy. Okay, we're getting near the end, folks. But this has been a great reading, don't you think so? As our country reemerges from a year of lockdown and isolation, I hope that we can find ways to open up our doors and hearts to each other. Ben is such a loving, kind soul that just looks to create bridges and make people feel so good. That's what I get from his letter. He doesn't tend to try to make people look like shit, does he? No, who would ever get that idea? Salvation's Army mission is to meet the human needs in his name and without discrimination. I urge the Salvation Army in all stores and established to rise to the meets this mission. Ben, you are a regular Rosa Parks or Ruby Bridges or MLK. I really feel that way about you, Ben. Notice he takes a shot saying that the Salvation Army is discriminating. This guy's a piece of work, man. More concretely, I urge all stores and establishments to open up their bathrooms, doors, and let other humans use them when they are in need. It is the law and it is the right thing to do. It is the law when they serve food or drink. That is true. And I've seen plenty of places that serve food or drink that do not open their bathrooms if you don't buy anything there. So I'm not sure if that's a law because I've been to many places that don't allow them. And maybe you'll go and smash down their door too because apparently it's the law in your mind. But like we said before, it is the law if they have a medical condition and can prove it. And I'm sure Salvation Army would have done that if they had. And the woman was there for a long time. So many of the things I went over before. And let's notice at the end, he put a lot of emails so we can flame up and call Salvation Army and talk about what a horrible company. He put emails of David Moore, the regional office manager, Norman Moore, with the subject line Hadley store incident on May 17th. Also, notice again that this is May 17th, and this is near halfway through June why he has reported this and actually talked about this. I'm wondering why he didn't make this letter at this until this point. I'm pretty sure why. I'm betting, and I don't know this, this is my assumption, that he didn't get out of the fine that he thought he was going to be able to get out of because he committed a crime and is actually a criminal. And so now he's trying to get the public to rescue him by writing this epic tale that I call it. You may not call it an epic tale. It seems to be an epic tale. And my investigative reporting has led me to this conclusion. I could be wrong in the fact that the Salvation Army is not pressing charges, but the Hadley Police Department is charging charges. And that seems a pretty good reasoning for that and a pretty good evidence of that. And I think he was just trying to see if he can stir up enough backlash that they would drop the charges and apply kind of a cancel culture mentality to make up and actually exaggerate a story and fabricate it, which I've showed you throughout this eyewitnesses accounts. And like I think I told you, the Salvation Army is in a legal investigation, so I will not reveal the names of the people I talked to within the store, the employees, the managers, or anybody else, for privacy and respect to that investigation of the Hadley Department, because there was a video and a lot of other things. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm hoping it comes to light so the real story behind Benjamin Levy and his heroic day at Salvation Army comes to light. So I want to share this to you. I actually have been kicked off Nextdoor for a couple days, so you won't be getting this video for a while. People don't like me calling people self-righteous and condescending, even though that's what they're doing, and basically looking at one side of the story, because I've seen very little people take up the side of Salvation Army. Maybe I'm missing something, but I haven't seen it. It kind of reminds me of cancel culture and kind of what I grew up with in the South, where people just kind of get on a mob side. But in the South, that was about racism. But here, this is about something much more minimal. But the idea is the same, as people rally to one side and they just jump on it and don't try to see the other side of the story, and they follow a narrative. It's a very dangerous mindset. I see it a lot in this country and a lot in Northampton, not trying to see both sides of the coin, which I try to do. And I'm sure people will continue to demonize me and talk things about me. I really don't care. Really doesn't care me. I know what I am. I know what I do. I know the things I do in this town. So I don't need you to reaffirm me in that. I know it through my actions. I'm sure I make mistakes. I'm a little harsh sometimes and a little blunt. And I try to work on those things, but I very much like the person and the things I do in this town. I don't like people like Benjamin Levy that makes him out to something I don't think he is. And I think I've done a pretty good job of proving that. You can continue to talk bad about the Salvation Army and say you're going to boycott them and picket them and do all sorts of things to try to demean the brand and demean the Hadley store. But it's a fact. For centuries, they've helped the needy, the poor, the old to afford things they normally couldn't afford. The basic necessities of life, clothes, things to cook, all these things we need. They do this, and a lot of those people work there for not much money. So the fact that people are coming out the Salvation Army, I have a big problem with that. And while I don't agree with the Salvation Army's policy, bathroom policy, I'm sure they have valid reasons. They've been in business for centuries and had that store for quite a long time. It serves a pretty valuable need in the community. And I will continue to rise for the Salvation Army, whether you like it or not, and you can talk whatever you want about me. I really don't care. I've been used to it since 2016, and I will continue to do what I do. And if other people do this for organizations that I think are very worthy of defending or people, I will continue to do that. And I will be continuing speaking up for Salvation Army and anybody who talks about Benjamin Levy. You're welcome to do that. But as long as you talk bad things about Salvation Army, I will defend them on this post. I will try to be more careful in the things I say, but I'm a little frustrated that way that people are going. And I hope you listen and actually try to see the other side of this in other situations, and maybe not always listen to just CNN or just Fox News, but try to sit in the middle, so you'll kind of see other sides. And you may not agree with them, but it's good to understand them, because we have a lot of different perspectives in this world. Um, and demonizing people and talking contempt of them is not helping our nation at all. You can disagree with them and do all these things, but you can also treat people respectfully you disagree with. I've seen quite a lot of instances of people face to face. This is not reading through social media, of people being horrific to people for having a difference of opinion, hitting people, um, horrible words, using weapons, throwing ammonia, throwing bloody tampons, um, using signs as weapons, all for having a difference of opinion, mainly on the conservative Republican Trump side. And I don't stand for that. I'm pretty much a liberal person. I voted pretty much liberal my whole life, but I don't stand for that stuff. And you will continue to see me doing this kind of stuff. You're stuck with me. I live in this town for many years to come. So get used to me being in this town and the things that I do. If you don't like me, that's fine. If you want to come in and rally around the things I do, that's fine too. But I will continue to do the things I do. It's what I do. But I I don't respect what Benjamin Levy did here. I don't respect it at all. I think he did a very wrong thing the way, and I think he's trying to get out of something where he regrets some very rash actions, which I have done in my life and I regretted. But I don't think he's holding himself accountable for the things he's done. So this is a very long video, but yeah, that's about it. Benjamin Levy, I hope you don't continue to do things like this, because it's really sad that you go after an organization like this. And like I said, I wish Salvation Army would change their policy, but it's not up for me to decide that. I think they're a very standout organization in many ways. And in some things I don't agree with them. But none of us are perfect. None of us do everything right. And they do a hell of a lot right. So, hope you have a good weekend, and